Hello everyone, it's Teaser Pro here. Today I'll be doing what if the Kamaboko squad was in Shinjuku Showdown, since it was most voted on the YouTube poll I made for my next vid. But let me say a few things before we get started. One, the Kamaboko squad will come in after Gojo gets killed by Sukuna, and the only reinforcement they will get is from the Hashira. Two, the Kamaboko squad will get cursed energy, cursed techniques, and domain expansion. They will not need to see a soul, since if they kill Sukuna, they just win. It really doesn't matter about Megumi. Nezuko should be Maki level because of her curse technique. Gin should be Hikaru level based on feats. And you get Gin to Yuta level since he scales relative to Hikaru. And Tanjiro and Nosuke, Zenitsu and Kanao should be Yuta level. So after Sukuna killed Gojo, Tanjiro and his friends came in. After seeing what Sukuna and Gojo did while fighting each other, Tanjiro and his team realized there would be more fitting for them to jump Sukuna. And as Sukuna starts to get pressed by them, Urame comes in to try and help, but out of the shadows, boom, Sanemi comes in and knocks out the way. And as Sanemi goes off to fight her, Sukuna turns into his true form, and Nosuke sends everybody away. And as Sukuna is trying to land a hit on Nosuke, Nosuke puts his hand there and says, "Domain expansion, Kingdom of the Beast." Sukuna looks around. He sees that he's in a forest, and when he turns, he sees Inosuke in a demonic form. Inosuke explains his domain to Sukuna, and then Sukuna starts to get attacked by little animals. Of course, Sukuna deals with most of the animals, but one of the animals surprises him and ends up biting him. And Sukuna starts coughing up blood, and Inosuke snickers and says that Lady Tamio's poison ended up working. Inosuke takes this opportunity to start fighting Sukuna. Sukuna fights back but starts to get staggered back. But Sukuna then ends up using Cleave. Inosuke does keep on fighting, but when Sukuna ends up hitting Inosuke with Dismantle, Inosuke falls down and so does his domain. And as Sukuna walks out of debris, Nezuko comes in and throws her blood on Sukuna. And as Sukuna starts to get burned, Nezuko throws Sukuna to Tanjiro and they start comboing him, but Sukuna is able to throw away Nezuko and knock away Tanjiro. But then Zenitsu comes in and starts blitzing Sukuna, making sure that Sukuna won't be able to get up, and Kanao joins on the attack. But Sukuna uses Dismantle to send Zenitsu away and Black flashes Kanao away. But as Gin tries to shoot Sukuna, Sukuna dodges and about to kill Sukuna, but Sukuna's hand gets obliterated and it turns out to be Guillaume. Guillaume spins his flail. He then throws it at Sukuna. Sukuna ends up getting knocked back by this but gets back up. But then Guillaume swings it back around and it cuts Sukuna. Guillaume starts to beat down Sukuna, but Sukuna ends up grabbing his flail and kicks away Guillaume. Guillaume gets back up though, but then Sukuna hits him with a Hurricane Slash, which cuts Guillaume in half, but he ends up throwing his flail to Genya, and as Genya catches it, Guillaume dies with a smile on his face. Genya screams and then charges at Sukuna. Genya then attacks Sukuna and rips off his arm. Genya then eats the arm that he ripped off and puts his hands together and says, "Domain expansion, Malevolent Shrine." As Sukuna gets cut up by his domain, Sukuna yells at Genya and tells him how he's able to do this, and Genya says when he ate a part of Sukuna, he was able to copy his curse technique. Genya realizes he can't hold up Sukuna's domain for long, so he prepares to shoot Sukuna, but it's too late. The domain falls apart, and Sukuna prepares to attack Genya, but Sanemi gets in the way. Sanemi then laughs and throws Urame's head at Sukuna, which shocks him, but then he laughs it off, acting like it's nothing, and then Sanemi prepares to attack him. Sanemi starts to land aggressive attacks against Sukuna, and Sukuna knocks his sword out of his hand, but Sanemi just starts to fight with his hands and legs. Of course, Sukuna does well against this, and ends up hitting Sanemi with a Black Flash, and then he unleashes his domain expansion. But before that can happen, Gideon shoots him, and the guns produces cuts all over his body, and out the cuts comes out trees. Gideon laughs and he yells, "Did you really think the only thing I could copy is their domain extension, Sukuna?" But then Sukuna used the world cutting slash to cut down the trees and cut Gideon in half. When Sanemi sees this, he gets enraged and starts to beat down Sukuna, not giving Sukuna a chance to react. And then Sanemi hits Sukuna with a black flash. After this, Sanemi goes on those Gideon, and Gideon dies the same way he did in the original series. Sukuna creeps up behind Sanemi, and Sanemi doesn't have time to react when Sukuna knocks him out. But then Sukuna feels cut off his body, and he is dismantled, and turns out to be Zenitsu, Now, and Inosuke. Then, as Sukuna is distracted, Nezuko comes in and throws her blood onto Sukuna's body. Then she says, "Domain expansion." And when Sukuna looks around, he's in a room full of blood, and the blood hardens around his feet. Nezuko appears, and she closes her hand, and the blood around Muzan starts to burn him. As Sukuna starts to cut up Nezuko, Nezuko keeps on regenerating every time he tries to do so. And as Sukuna raises his hand for a domain expansion, Nezuko tries to stop him, but it's too late. As Nezuko starts to get cut up by Sukuna's domain, he unleashes a Fugu and pretends to hit her with it, but he gets stabbed in the back, and it turns out to be Kanao. Kanao is joined by Tanjiro, and they both start to land attacks on him, making sure that he doesn't have a chance to fight back. And as Tanjiro unleashes his Demon Slayer mark, Kanao unleashes her Scarlet Eye, and Sukuna starts to get pressed back, but he's able to send Tanjiro away with an attack, which knocks him out. Then Zenitsu comes in, and he helps Kanao make sure Sukuna isn't able to fight back. But then Sukuna starts to get enraged and charges up a Fuga, and then he releases the Fuga, but Inosuke gets in the way, and the shockwave knocks out Inosuke and Zenitsu. And as Sukuna is about to kill Kanao, Kanao gets saved by Tanjiro, and Tanjiro turns around and says, "Domain expansion." Justice from Hellfire. When Sukuna looks around, he sees that the sun is on one side of him and the ocean's on the other side of him. Tanjiro then gets on a speed similar to Yuji, but in a, I don't know, mutant type of way. But Sukuna, of course, denies like he does in the original series. Then Tanjiro gets serious, and Tanjiro starts to attack Sukuna with a mix of water breathing and Hura. And Sukuna starts to get pushed back until Tanjiro hits Sukuna with a black flash. This knocks Sukuna out, and Tanjiro flips over and cuts off Sukuna's head, ending the Shinjuku Showdown.